The Anderson manufacturing headquarters hadn't changed much since I was a little girl running through its halls. The same oak-paneled walls, the same worn marble floors, the same portrait of my grandfather hanging in the main lobby. Everything was exactly as he'd left it when he died 5 years ago. Everything except the man sitting in my grandfather's office. Marcus Sterling, my stepfather of 3 years, looked ridiculously out of place behind the massive mahogany desk. His designer suit and slicked-back hair clashed with the room's old-world dignity. He was typing something on his laptop, purposely making me wait. I cleared my throat. "You wanted to see me?" He looked up, his practiced smile not reaching his cold gray eyes. "Ah, Sophia." "Yes, please sit." I remained standing. After 6 months as head of operations, I'd learned never to give him the height advantage. "Look," he began, closing his laptop, "I've been reviewing your performance reports. They're concerning." "Concerning?" I raised an eyebrow. "Productivity is up 15% since I took over. Employee satisfaction scores are the highest they've been in a decade. Numbers can be misleading." He waved his hand dismissively. "This isn't about statistics. It's about fit." I felt my jaw tighten. Fit. Anderson Manufacturing needs strong leadership, traditional leadership, someone who understands family values. Family values? I couldn't help but laugh. "You married my mother 3 years ago, and suddenly you're an expert on our family's values." His smile vanished. "I'm CEO now, Sophia. Your mother signed over controlling interest when we married. After you convinced her, she couldn't handle running the company alone. She made the right choice." He stood up, trying to tower over me. "And now I'm making another right choice. You're fired." I didn't move. "On what grounds?" "I don't need grounds. You're not really family," he sneered. "Leave." Slowly, deliberately, I pulled out my phone. His eyes narrowed as I put it on speaker and dialed a number I knew by heart. "Harrison Industries, James Harrison speaking." "Hi, Dad," I said, watching Marcus's face. "Ready to pull our contracts?" The color drained from Marcus's face, so fast I thought he might faint. "Dad?" he whispered. "Your father is James Harrison, CEO of Harrison Industries," I confirmed. "Our biggest client. The one responsible for 60% of Anderson Manufacturing's revenue." My father's warm chuckle came through the speaker. "Is Marcus finally figuring it out, sweetheart?" Marcus gripped the desk edge. But your last name is Anderson." "My mother's name," I explained. "She took it when she married my first stepfather, the man my grandfather chose to help run the company, the man who actually cared about its legacy." "You've been spying for Harrison Industries," he accused. "No," I said quietly. "I've been protecting my grandfather's company from you." I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick file, dropping it on his desk. The thud echoed in the suddenly silent room. 3 years of evidence," I continued. "Every shady deal, every stolen penny, every creative accounting trick. Did you really think nobody would notice the offshore accounts? The mysterious consulting fees? The stripped assets?" "You can't prove anything," he said, but his voice shook. "Actually," my father's voice came through clearly, "she can. Sophia has been officially working as Harrison Industries compliance officer for the past 2 years. Everything she documented is legally obtained evidence." Marcus lunged for his computer, probably to start deleting files. "Don't bother," I said. "The SEC already has copies." His face went from white to green. "You'll destroy the company." No, Marcus. You tried to destroy the company. I'm saving it. I picked up my phone. Dad, initiate Protocol 7. With pleasure, my father replied. Marcus, Harrison Industries is hereby terminating all contracts with Anderson Manufacturing, effective immediately. The penalties for early termination will be enforced in full. Marcus slumped in his chair. That'll bankrupt us. Yes, I agreed. Unless what? I sat down in one of the leather chairs facing the desk, my grandfather's chairs, which Marcus had tried to replace until I intervened. Unless you sign everything back to its rightful owner. Right now. Your mother. No, I cut him off. Not Mom. She trusted you, and you betrayed that trust. I mean me. I pulled out another document, transfer of ownership papers my lawyers had prepared weeks ago. Sign this, and Harrison Industries will maintain modified contracts, enough to keep the company afloat. Refuse, and we pull everything. Your choice. His hand shook as he reached for a pen. You planned this. Since the day you fired Thomas from accounting for questioning your expense reports. Or when you laid off Maria from manufacturing because she remembered how Grandpa used to run things. The board won't stand for this, he threatened weakly. I smiled. The board meeting is in an hour. Would you like to know what else is in that file? Like how you've been paying their children consulting fees through shell companies. The pen scratched across paper as he signed. Your mother will never forgive you. He tried one last time. Mom? I glanced at my watch. She's having breakfast with my father right now. Turns out they had a lot to catch up on, especially about her current husband's activities. The sound of footsteps in the hallway grew louder. Right on schedule. Those would be the FBI agents, I said, standing. Don't worry. They're not here for the company. Just you. He looked up, desperate. How long? How long have you been planning this? I walked to the door, pausing to look at my grandfather's portrait on the wall. Since the day you walked into this office thinking you could steal my grandfather's legacy. I turned back to him. You were right about one thing, Marcus. I'm not family. I'm something much more dangerous. I'm my grandfather's heir. And I'd protect what's mine. The FBI agents entered as I stepped aside. Oh, and Marcus? Clean out your desk. You're fired. The morning after Marcus's arrest, I arrived at Anderson Manufacturing before sunrise. The early light cast long shadows through the factory windows as I walked the production floor, running my hand along the machines I'd grown up learning about. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. News of Marcus's arrest had spread fast in our small business community. But one message caught my attention, from his son, Jack Sterling. You'll regret this. Family meeting, 9 a.m., main conference room. Be there. I smiled. Jack had always been as subtle as his father. At exactly 9 a.m., I walked into the conference room wearing my grandfather's old leather jacket over a crisp business suit. Jack was there with his sister Emma, both looking like they'd stepped out of a luxury magazine. Their lawyer, Harrison Peters, sat between them with a smug expression. Glad you could join us, Jack sneered. We have some things to discuss. I sat down at the head of the table, my grandfather's old spot. Make it quick. I have a company to run. Emma slammed a folder onto the table. You mean our company. Dad's shares transfer to us upon any interruption in his leadership. Interesting theory. I opened my laptop. But incorrect. Their lawyer leaned forward. The transfer agreement is quite clear. The transfer agreement, I cut in, was never legal in the first place. I turned my laptop around, showing them the original company documents. My grandfather put an ironclad succession clause in place. The company can only transfer to blood relatives or specifically approved successors. Marcus's marriage to my mother didn't give him true ownership, just temporary management rights. That's impossible, Jack sputtered. Dad's lawyers checked everything. Dad's lawyers, I said quietly, were paid to see what he wanted them to see, just like they didn't notice when he started embezzling funds, or when he tried to sell our patents to competitors. Emma's face went pale. You're lying. I pressed a button on my phone. Mr. Davidson, please come in. The door opened, and Anderson Manufacturing's original lawyer walked in. The man who'd worked with my grandfather for 30 years, whom Marcus had forced into early retirement. Everything Miss Anderson says is correct, he said, placing another stack of documents on the table. I helped write those succession clauses myself. Marcus Sterling never legally owned this company. Jack jumped to his feet. This is ridiculous. We'll fight this in court. Sit down, I said sharply, before I play the recordings. He froze. What recordings? I pulled out my phone and played a clip. Jack's voice discussing with Marcus how to hide company assets in offshore accounts. Then another. Emma bragging to a friend about how they were going to strip the company and sell it off piece by piece. The thing about modern technology, I said, stopping the playback, is that everything leaves a trail. Emails, phone calls, bank transfers, even those interesting meetings you had with our competitors last month. Their lawyer was shuffling papers nervously now. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're both going to sign resignation letters from your positions in the company. You're going to return every penny your father stole, and you're going to do it quietly. Or what? Emma challenged, but her voice shook. Or I release everything to the FBI, the SEC, and the press. How do you think your social circle will react when they learn you were planning to destroy a company that employs half the town? Harrison Peters cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss terms. No terms, I said. No negotiations. You have 1 hour to clear out your offices. After that, security has orders to treat you as trespassers. You can't do this to us, Jack shouted. We're family. No, I corrected him. You're thieves who happen to share my stepfather's last name. There's a difference. As they stormed out, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. Board meeting in 30 minutes. Ready to show them what a real CEO looks like. I smiled, touching the worn leather of my grandfather's jacket. On my way. The boardroom was tense when I arrived. 12 members of the old guard, all of whom had supported Marcus's takeover, sat nervously around the massive oak table. Lady and gentlemen, I began, let's talk about the future of Anderson Manufacturing, and more importantly, your role in its recent past. I spent the next hour laying out everything, the fraudulent contracts they'd approved, the kickbacks they'd accepted, the way they'd helped Marcus slowly dismantle my grandfather's legacy. You have 2 choices, I concluded. Resign now and cooperate with the investigation, or face criminal charges alongside Marcus. You have 30 seconds to decide. One by one, they stood. Within minutes, the boardroom was empty, except for 3 members who had opposed Marcus from the start. Now, I said to them, let's rebuild what they tried to destroy. My phone buzzed again, a message from the prison. Marcus wanted to talk. Put him through, I told my assistant. You think you're clever. His voice was harsh over the speaker. But you have no idea what's coming. Actually, I replied calmly. I know exactly what's coming. The SEC just froze all your hidden accounts, including the ones in the Cayman Islands you thought nobody knew about. The patents you tried to sell to our competitors. Already recovered. And that little insurance policy you had with the local paper? They're running a different story tomorrow. What story? The truth. About how you married a grieving widow to steal her family's company. About how you nearly destroyed a business that's been the backbone of this community for 3 generations. About how your own children helped you do it. He was quiet for a long moment. Your mother will never forgive you. Mom? I glanced at my office door where she stood, tears in her eyes but head held high. She's the one who gave me access to your private files. Turns out she's been suspecting the truth for months. She just needed proof. I hung up as Mom walked in, looking around the office, my grandfather's office, now restored to its former dignity. He never understood, she said softly, touching the old desk. This was never just about money. No, I agreed. It was about legacy, about responsibility, about protecting what matters. She picked up an old photo of my grandfather and me, taken right here when I was 12. He'd be proud of you, you know. I know. I smiled, looking out over the factory floor where 3 generations of Andersons had built something worth fighting for. And this is just the beginning, because taking back what was stolen was only the first step. Now came the real challenge. Rebuilding what Marcus had tried to destroy, and showing everyone exactly what happens when you underestimate a quiet girl who grew up learning every inch of her grandfather's empire. 3 weeks after Marcus's arrest, I sat in my grandfather's office reviewing the damage report. The numbers were worse than I'd expected. Marcus had embedded himself deeper in the company's finances than anyone realized. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Come in. My assistant Michael entered, looking nervous. Miss Anderson, there's something you need to see. He handed me a tablet showing surveillance footage from our secure document room. The timestamp read 3 a.m. last night. A figure in a maintenance uniform was carefully photographing confidential files. Have you identified them? Yes, he said quietly. It's Lisa Sterling, Marcus's youngest daughter, the quiet one who'd stayed in the background during all the chaos, the one I'd foolishly overlooked. Where is she now? In her office. Marketing department. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Call security. Have them meet me there. And Michael? Contact Harrison Peters' office. Tell him his law license is about to become very interesting to the Bar Association. Lisa's office was at the end of the marketing hall. Through the glass walls, I could see her frantically typing on her computer. When I entered, she jumped. Deleting evidence? I asked calmly. I don't know what you're talking about. I set the tablet on her desk, playing the surveillance footage. Want to try again? The color drained from her face. You don't understand. They made me do it. They? The investors. The ones Dad promised the company to. They're expecting a complete transfer of all proprietary information by noon today. I sat down across from her. Tell me everything. The story spilled out. How Marcus had secured his position by promising Anderson Manufacturing's assets to a group of foreign investors. How they'd bankrolled his takeover, expecting to strip the company bare once he had full control. How they'd threatened his children when things started falling apart. They're dangerous people, Lisa whispered. You have no idea what they're capable of. I smiled slightly. Actually, I do, because I've been tracking them for months. Her eyes widened as I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. FBI Special Agent Thompson speaking. It's Sophia Anderson. Lisa Sterling is ready to talk. What happened next was a blur of federal agents, Homeland Security officials, and corporate lawyers. Lisa's testimony opened up an international investigation into corporate espionage that would eventually bring down one of the largest industrial theft rings in the country. But that wasn't the biggest surprise of the day. At 2 p.m., as I was reviewing Lisa's statement with the FBI, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from the prison. Marcus had been found unconscious in his cell. Apparent suicide attempt, the warden reported, but we found this note. The contents of the note would shake our entire industry to its core. Marcus hadn't just been working with foreign investors. He'd been part of a decades-long conspiracy involving some of the biggest names in manufacturing. Names like Harrison Industries, including my father. I sat in my office late that night, staring at the evidence I'd uncovered. The pieces had been there all along. The too perfect timing of Harrison Industries contracts, the way my father had helped me take down Marcus, his mysterious absences during key moments of the investigation. My phone rang. Dad's number. You know, I said without preamble. Of course you figured it out. He sighed. You're too much like your grandfather. Was any of it real, or was I just another pawn in your game? Sophia. He paused. Everything I did was to protect you. By using me to take down your rival. By manipulating me into thinking I was protecting my grandfather's legacy when I was really just clearing the way for your own takeover. The company was always meant to be yours, he said quietly. Marcus was a threat to both our families. I just expedited his removal. I looked at my grandfather's portrait on the wall. You should know something, Dad. I didn't just investigate Marcus. I investigated everyone. The silence on the other end was deafening. Check your email, I continued. You'll find copies of everything I have on Harrison Industries' involvement in the conspiracy. All the evidence has already been sent to multiple secure locations. What do you want? A clean break. Harrison Industries divests all interests in Anderson Manufacturing. You retire, quietly, and cooperate with the investigation. In return, I keep your name out of the public proceedings. You blackmail your own father. You were never my father, I said softly. You were just another man who thought he could steal my grandfather's legacy. After he hung up, Mom appeared in my doorway. She'd aged years in the past few weeks, but there was a strength in her eyes I hadn't seen since Grandpa died. You knew, I said, about Dad's involvement. She nodded. Your grandfather told me on his deathbed, made me promise to wait until you were ready to handle the truth. Ready to handle it? Or ready to fight back? She smiled sadly. Both. He always said you were the only one who truly understood what he built here. Not just a company, but a purpose. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the factory floor where workers were starting the night shift. 3 generations of families had worked these machines, built their lives around this company. We'll rebuild, I said firmly. Better than before. No more secret deals. No more conspiracies. Just honest work and fair treatment. Your grandfather used to say something about honest work, Mom remembered. The only legacy worth having is the one you build with clean hands and clear conscience. I quoted. I finally understand what he meant. The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting in the main assembly area. Every employee, from senior managers to maintenance staff, gathered to hear what would happen next. Anderson Manufacturing has stood for 3 generations, I began. It survived war, recession, and betrayal. Some of you have worked here longer than I've been alive. Others are just starting your journey with us. But every one of you is part of this family. I paused, looking at their faces, worried, hopeful, determined. Starting today, we're implementing my grandfather's original vision: employee profit sharing, educational benefits, a real voice in company decisions. Because this isn't just my company, it's ours. The cheer that went up shook the rafters. Later, as I sat in my office signing the papers that would transform Anderson Manufacturing into an employee-owned enterprise, I found an old letter in my grandfather's desk. It was addressed to me, dated just before his death. My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, you finally discovered the truth about the wolves circling our company. Your father, Marcus, all of them thinking they could take what we built. But you, my quiet, watchful granddaughter, you were always the one I trusted to see through their schemes, to understand that real power isn't in hostile takeovers or secret deals, but in building something that matters. You've probably made some hard choices by now, choices that hurt, that cost you people you thought you could trust. Remember this: a legacy built on truth may be harder to achieve, but it's impossible to steal. Take care of our people, Sophia. They're the real heart of everything we built. With pride and love, Grandpa. I folded the letter carefully and looked out at the factory floor, where the night shift was just ending, day shift workers arriving with lunch boxes and coffee thermoses. My phone was quiet. No more crisis calls, no more threats, no more schemes. Just the steady hum of machines, the rhythm of honest work, and the knowledge that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should have watched all along. Because I wasn't just my grandfather's heir anymore. I was his legacy. And this time, I'd make sure it lasted.